When I was talking about Galileo and sign language, that's just the first part, the the basic ingredient to this whole thing. But it is sort of technically why I feel that way because um, a lot of people are familiar with sign language and they see the benefit, but yet they're not using it. Just like they thought, well, the Earth's flat. We don't need to do anything about the Earth being round anyway. And we saw how short-sighted that was as a culture. And what's getting some airplay these days, and what I would like to also add my two bits about is how the brain works and how we need to get um, get that uh, schematic down. Um, a lot of people think that the certain um, drugs. I don't want to go there. I think it's better if I just say what's the right way and not deal with the wrong way at all. Um, Being that I'm 99% sure I'm right. So the um, the brain has different um, like pathways and neurons and synapses, and when those synapses fire, um, that's when we release those chemicals and in our brain, and it makes us feel a certain way. So what we um, probably uh, haven't heard, excuse me, and what is um, kind of something that I'm really proud of being able to explain, um, is that we are able to somewhat steer those um, neurons as they're traveling on and make new neural pathways. And as those particular neural pathways, which were kind of like run down the same one, you just kind of shot a neuron one side to the other. I had the thought, brush my teeth, and I went and brushed them. That amount of time kind of took up that old neural pathway, that pattern. So if you're able to classify a couple things, even if it's just generic, like drawer with your hand, you open the drawer, you might see that drawer differently, and it sets off some chemicals just because you defined what it was. So that's how the sign language works. Other things I'm using are kanji. Might define. I'm going to use my left hand um, with the kanji for left, or even hand. And by using just a little bit of brain power, even though it's not something like epiphany or it's brand new to everybody. I'm doing this. No one's ever done this before. It's something that fuels that fire, though. And you might, after 100 times of doing something that's kind of arbitrary, sign language and kanji, you do get a really good feeling like I've kind of been doing something with myself. Whether it's really entertaining or not is kind of up for debate. So, what I'm trying to get at here is, toothbrush, which is tooth and brush in sign language, can save a whole day. You brushed your teeth, you put your toothbrush away, you left the house, and you just kind of felt this connection to something you didn't know. It was toothbrush the whole day. Could have said that earlier and avoided sort of some weird backlash that was like, at that moment you put it away. Well, this is the whole reason. I'm sort of saying two things at once here. Let me catch my venom. At that moment that you were done with the toothbrush your hands were still for like a split second. Now, that's the funny thing about this cliche that we all know: idle hands are the devil's playground. And that's kind of the impetus to learn sign language, to keep your hands moving and keep your idea connected to your hands. If you're trying to just squeeze an idea out of your head, and make something about it, which is kind of like how a lot of people got successful, but they're also yelling at other people, telling other people what to do the whole time. I'm trying to change the way that getting successful bridge is gapped. I'm trying to say, just because you were able to stay in a position of power that allowed you for that space of being able to yell at somebody, that doesn't mean you're successful. You were very mean to that person, and that comes around in like a lifetime thing if you're familiar with how that philosophy works, which is Eastern philosophy, Tibetan Buddhism. I feel I know a lot about all this stuff. I've studied Tai Chi, I've studied Kung Fu, and through those studies I've gained this self-awareness that leads me to believe, and also gives me the credential to say, if you sometimes just define what it is that you're using and just keep going, you're able to not only pay a little bit of respect for that whole process of the invention of it and share a tiny kind of like a holy shit second with whoever, but you avoid that feeling of what did I forget, and how do I keep this good feeling of feeling fresh and ready for the day with my teeth clean. Well, I mean, chances are that pattern gets worn down really quick, and you got to figure out a new way. And chances are the unanimousness of this, everyone defining toothbrush, make it really boring real fast. And what I'm saying is, knowing how the brain works, knowing that sign language is kind of the first thing. What were you thinking? Yes or no? Knowing that a symbol from either Celtic runes, hieroglyphics, or kanji are going to ground you to your environment in a certain way that's a very hard experience. You'll never want to look back at that moment, and you'll want to sort of figure out, well, wow, how can I even improve this moment more by not only using that tool, but moreover than that, how can I feel good about this sort of movements that I'm making? Well, the more I talk about it, the more excited I get that we can actually succeed at putting this into